Peace everyone, Unmask here, and today I'm going to be doing a live stream of a pastel work. I've only been working with pastels since this past Monday, so it might seem a little odd that I'm doing a tutorial, but I've pretty much figured out how to do skies. So I figured from the perspective of somebody that's new with pastels, it'd be kind of an interesting perspective to do a tutorial. Anyways, this is the pack of pastels that I'm working with, the Faber Castell 48 soft pastels, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started right away. I'm going to hit record on my camera and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a gradient from the light blue to the dark blue from bottom to top. So I'm going to just start with my light blue color here. Hopefully it doesn't make a lot of noise on the paper. But I'm going to go up about halfway with this color. Greetings, Noah. Thanks for joining the live stream. I'm not going to blend anything out right now, but I'm going to now switch to my darker blue color, just a bit darker, and I'm going to do the rest of the half, and I'm going to kind of blend in the middle a little bit here. Hello, Tracy. Now that I have those first initial colors, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the blue here because we're going to make some sun rays that are coming out. And we're just going to kind of imply them here a little bit. And I'm going to take one more darker blue, so just a bit shade darker, and I'm going to do up here, I'm going to kind of create a vignette. So I'm going to just do a little darker up here. Like that. Alright, so before going any further, we're just gonna blend this out. So I'm gonna start with the light color and just give it a soft blend with my finger. And I'm gonna keep my blending horizontal just for the sake of it being a sky. Horizontal streaks are a little bit easier to hide. And the paper that I'm working on right now is the Uart 600 paper, which I'm a pretty big fan of when it comes to working with pastels. You get a nice silky smooth finish. I've also worked with the Pastel matte and the Canson Mitenta paper. I am not a fan of the Canson Mitenta paper, which I mentioned in a previous video here on my channel. And for these sun rays, we're going to go out in the direction that they're going, just to help reinforce that lighting effect. And then go back horizontally and just blend out the rest of these colors. Don't be too concerned if the paper's not being covered right away. This is just our first initial layer, and we'll continue to blend these colors together a bit more. All right. Okay, we're going to go back to our original blue, the light blue, and we're going to just put another layer. And make sure that we have the paper completely covered so we have a nice smooth finish. I'm going to create some of those sun rays again by just doing kind of these kind of strokes here into this darker blue. And we're going to do a light layer over top of this blue here. Just like that. And we're going to switch back to our medium blue that we used here in the middle and just added a light layer over top of this. Just so it gives us something to blend. For those of you that are in the chat right now or watching and haven't chatted, if you would like to help share the stream so that more people can come in and ask questions or anything like that, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it on Facebook or tweeted it or something like that. That'd be helpful. Appreciate that. All right, so now we're just gonna dust off our finger a little bit and blend it out again from the lightest color to the darkest color, because we want to preserve our bright blue down here. And then for the sunbeams, we're just going to go in that direction a little bit, like that. One of the things about pastels that is just makes them so fun is just how easy they are to use and to blend. Like if you're painting or using colored pencils, getting a nice gradient and getting the colors to blend can be kind of difficult. Hello, Anne and Absinthium. Thanks for joining the live stream. I decided to do this tutorial kind of just on a whim. I was sitting here. I actually just finished doing a live stream this morning for Patreon supporters. I did a tutorial on coloring red hair, and I just was compelled to do another live stream today. All right, so just going to blend that out and make sure everything's nice and smooth. Make sure the paper's covered all the way up to the tape edge as well. That way when we peel off the tape, it has a really nice clean border. And we're just going to go down and blend it all smooth. Most of the paper is pretty well covered with this first layer, and it's going to make everything else so much easier. But this is what we're going to start with here. I am going to add a little bit more. So this dark blue that we used up here, the darkest blue, I'm going to add just a little bit here into the sun rays and just bring it out like this. You want to make sure that your lines are in the direction and has a single vanishing point. Just a few lines. You don't want to add too much. And then just blend it out by going in that direction. Stretch it nice and far too. Don't be afraid to get the sunlight shining really bright. And it might seem odd that we're using a darker color, but it will become more evident that it's sunbeams once we start with the other layers. We want to make sure it's blended well so it doesn't move around on us. And we're going to go back up here and just kind of soften those lines a little bit. Gently blend it out. Okay, one of the things that I do is I have this taped down onto a wooden panel that lets me lift it up like this. And the reason I do that is so that I can tap it and all the extra dust will go down. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to tap it so that all the extra dust falls down. All right, and that's how I get rid of the excess dust. That's a little trick that somebody mentioned to me and I instantly incorporated it into doing this. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start building the clouds. And we're going to start with the light gray color that comes in this 48 pack. So it's the lightest gray. It's probably a 2 or a 3 as far as the gray scale is. And what we're going to do is we're going to build this cloud here in the middle of this kind of light. And this is going to be a really dark cloud where the sun is kind of hiding behind, and then we're going to have the sun peeking around it. So we're just going to kind of create, just a fluffy shape. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. That's one of the things that I love about this medium is just how forgiving it is, and how easy it is to create these soft effects that you get in the sky. So just color that in a little bit, and we're going to add, you know, just a few clouds over here, and just be, you know, kind of spontaneous with it. You don't have to do anything perfect. This is just kind of blocking in a few clouds, getting some ideas down. Maybe there'll be, you know, a soft cloud over here coming up, and just kind of moving about. Just like this. And then there will be a nice big cloud kind of just right here all the way across. And we'll use that to create some really fun lighting effects. Just get multiple layers, and as you move away from the horizon, the clouds are going to get farther apart. So it's going to kind of stretch. So the clouds are going to kind of come in at an angle, and you want to point it all to this center point. You just kind of want to bring in a few random clouds at the top and just kind of give them a point where they're coming in to the sides here. And just, all right, we're not going to blend that out yet. What we're going to do is we're going to take, so the darkest blue that we used up here, we're just going to take that and we're going to add it into some of this cloud, and create a nice shadow in the cloud. And we're just going to do this kind of sparingly. Add a little bit over these clouds here. And you're going to want to do this on the top side of the cloud, because the underside is going to be hit by the light, and it's going to be nice and bright. So you want to try to focus on the top parts of the clouds. That's where all the dark shadows are going to occur, on the tops. Hello Esra, thanks for joining the live stream. Appreciate you coming by. All right, now we're going to take a slightly darker gray. So this is one scale up from the lightest gray, and we want to go over those blue spots because we don't want them too blue, we still want them pretty gray. And this darker gray is going to help tone down that blue when we blend it out, and also create some nice shadows. So we're just gonna throw it in a few different places, and that's going to help create a few more shadows in these clouds. And I'm really not drawing anything. I'm really just kind of playing around and throwing them in different locations, and so just, you don't have to be real precise about anything. Not when you're working with a sky, I promise you. Just kind of get some color down there, and when you blend it out, you'll be amazed at how much these just turn into clouds. No, there is no. Okay, so Fine Art Ann asked if when I'm moving these blocks across the paper, even when I'm using the sharp corner, if it scratches the paper. No, and I think that's probably why I am leaning towards liking to work with Uart paper instead of the pastel mat, the Clairefontaine pastel mat. The paper is really great, and I haven't quite decided whether or not I like the pastel mat better or worse than the Uart paper. The Uart paper, you get amazing results on it, and you also get amazing results on the pastel mat. I haven't noticed any scratching when I use the pastel mat, but you certainly don't get it on here at all. Okay. Now I'm going to take even darker gray, a little bit darker gray, and I'm just going to go in and touch those shadows very lightly to get some of the really dark tones. And this is, even if you get some spots a little bit too dark, it's totally correctable. You can always go back over it with the light color and bring back what you lost. So just use a little bit of it. Find those really, really dark spots. Just a few of them. No, I have not tried the pan pastels yet. I do intend on getting some soon, but I have not yet worked with them. So I can't say whether or not they have a smoother blending. To be honest with you, I can't imagine that there's much difference with blending. Based on the papers that I've used so far, the paper makes more of a difference with the blending than the pastels. Like these Faber Castell pastels, they're not like the highest grade brand of pastels. They're still professional level, but they're like professional entry level in my opinion because they're so cheap and affordable. So as far as blendability, I don't know if pan pastels are just automatically better to be blended because of that they're just a powder instead. I mean, they're really just a powder of a stick. So I can't imagine that difference makes them more blendable. Okay, so now I'm going to start blending out some of these clouds. And with these top clouds, we're going to come in the way that we drew them just to get those nice streaks of perspective with the sky. And with the other ones, I'm just going to kind of dab my finger. I'm not really rubbing a lot. I'm kind of dabbing just to get the smallest amount of movement to blend those out and make them nice and soft. And if you get a lot of powder around the outside, don't worry about blending it. We are going to lift this back up and be able to get rid of that dust. So we'll preserve our little details and our cloud edges and things like that. Yes, okay, so the pastel mat is softer than the Uart paper. It is definitely softer. This paper is nice and coarse. But I've used the Pitt pencils on the Uart paper, and the Uart paper works just as well, and if not better, than the pastel mat. Like I said, I haven't yet made a verdict on whether or not I prefer the pastel mat compared to the Uart paper. I need to do a couple more pieces. I only did my first attempt on the pastel mat, and then I did a couple practices with the Uart paper, and I really, really liked the results. And then I also did a piece on the Canson Mitenta paper, which I don't like. I have still some pieces of the Mitenta paper, but I won't use it for major projects, just for practice. Because, one second. The issue that I've had with not only the Canson Mitenta paper, but also the Fabriano pastel paper. I also tried the Fabriano pastel paper, and I don't like either of them. The reason I don't like them is because no matter how many layers you put on, and you can't put on a lot of layers, they will still have the paper texture coming through no matter what. So I imagine that it might be good for a more impressionistic look when working with pastels, because you can the Canson paper comes in just a huge variety of colors, and so your color choice is really, really important for your paper when working with those in pastels, because the paper color will always show through. It will always show through no matter how many layers you put on that paper. But the Uart paper only comes in one color, and it's a really light sand grayish color. But it completely gets covered by the pastels, and similarly with the pastel mat, the paper gets completely covered and there's nothing that is showing through. I got kind of a dark sienna pastel matte paper, so I don't see any of it in my lighter values. Alright, so for these clouds down here, I'm going to kind of blend them out a little bit more because they're just light, real light clouds. And I'm still just kind of dabbing because I don't want to spread these clouds out. I want to contain them, and then I'll add more detail to the shape now. Okay, I'm going to clean off my finger really quick. And I'm going to lift this back up, and I'm going to tap off all the excess. Okay, that didn't work perfectly, but that's okay. We can continue on. You can leave this dust alone. Just don't touch it and blend it out, really. That's the important thing. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit more of my blue color, my blue sky color that I used up here on the top, and I'm going to go back through and just add some more finer shadows. So I'm going to just kind of touch it a little bit and just create some nice fluffy texture in the clouds. Again, this is still going to be blended out, so you have plenty of freedom. So don't worry too much. You can go a bit dark with your shadows. Just you want to add a little bit of color to them. Yeah, that's so you bring out a good point, and because the pan pastels are a powder form, you can lightly layer, and you can potentially get more layers because of that reason. I agree. That's probably a really nice benefit of them. Okay, so one of the things that I'm doing in this cloud here, since the sun is going to be hitting this cloud really brightly, I'm doing some of my shadows in the direction of the light beam. So I'm going to have like some lines here and here and here and here and here, and it's just going to help create that lighting a bit. I haven't tried the color fix paper. I haven't heard of that one yet. I'll have to try that. I'm always interested in finding the right paper because it took me like 2 years to finally find the paper that I like to use with colored pencils and markers and things like that. So it can take a long time to find the paper that you really like. But I really do enjoy this Uart paper. It's definitely a good paper to try out. Alright, so this cloud here is really dark because the sun is right behind it and it's really dense, so there's no sun coming through it. So we're going to make this nice and dark. All right. So you probably get a bit more mileage with the pan pastels than you do with the sticks, because I've already kind of burnt through this light blue that I use a lot in my sky. Half of the stick is already gone, so. All right, so here's some just like tiny clouds that are coming through. And as you get closer to the horizon, the clouds become a lot more just kind of like horizontal sticks. All right, a couple little things over here. All right, so we're going to Now, still adding some of the shadows, I'm taking that dark gray color that I used, and I'm just going to add it. I'm just going to add it in here so that when I blend it out with this blue, it kind of desaturates the blue a little bit because it's a bit too bright in my opinion. And I'm just adding a few breakaway clouds up here with these as well, just to give it a bit more detail. And then once you blend it out, all that stuff is going to make more sense. I'm still just kind of scribbling inside the clouds. I'm not really creating any definitive texture or detail. Again, some of those lines just to create that sense of lighting. And over here a little bit. All right, now I'm going to go in with, let's see here, I'm going to go in with this kind of yellow color. It's not going to be, let me dust it off because it's really messy right now. Yeah, I can't really get it clean, but it's pretty much the yellowest, whitest color. So it's kind of like an ivory color, perfect color for highlights and clouds. So we're just going to go in and we're going to add just a bit of highlight. When you blend this color out, it's going to fade right away into those dark colors that you've added. So don't be afraid if it looks a little bright, because this first layer is just going to kind of disappear. But this is going to help bring out some of those cloud shapes a little bit better, and just kind of, you know, speckle it around the cloud. Get some interesting highlights. You don't have to highlight everything. You don't want to do that because some of these clouds aren't going to really be highlighted. They're just going to be, you know, in the shadow and stuff like that. So you don't have to worry about highlighting everything. Get some of those sunlight beams going. Just kind of create a nice soft edge here. Maybe we'll have like 1 or 2 sky beams kind of just shooting through a little bit. These clouds that are closer, they're going to be much more highlighted. So just add kind of smiley faces, kind of create like a smiley face on the bottom part of the cloud, wherever the sun is. It's this dot behind the cloud. And then this part here is going to be pretty highlighted as well. We're just going to add some yellow here and start building that sunspot that's going to show up there. Just like that. Maybe add a couple little light beams just shooting through there a little bit maybe. We'll blend it out so that's not so harsh. There we go. Be a bit more generous with this bottom part of the cloud here. Couple little specks here and there just to create those like little breakaway clouds that are highlighted. All right, with that color done, clean off my finger a bit. And we're just going to tap our finger and kind of give it just a gentle touch so that those colors become softer. These clouds are being stretched with the perspective, so I'm giving them a bit more of a rub. And there we go. These clouds are really going to start popping off once we start incorporating the white. And that will really establish the light very strongly. Once we start building that contrast, it's what's going to make these clouds really brighten up. Make that light source just stand off the page. The backside of the cloud where it's shaded, you can blend that into the blue a little bit more. The cloud part that you want to be nice and crisp is this front face where the light is hitting it. So you can blend out the back a little bit if you're not liking the way that it looks. Just give it a little bit of a touch, like a touch and a lift and push, kind of a lift and push technique, I guess. And I'm pushing it away from my center point here. So I'm always pushing it this way over here and pushing it that way over here, just to kind of create that perspective that's coming out like this. Oh, 1 second. Camera decided to stop recording. There we go. At least I caught it real quickly. I'm constantly looking up and making sure that's like that. I definitely intend to do more tutorials like this in the future, because as I get better and better at working with pastels, I just want to share the knowledge with everybody. And it's fun going through the journey. So I bought the half stick sizes of the 48 pack of just the half sticks. So that's what it was. It was like $30 or something like that, like $30 or 25 pounds or something. I don't know. I never know what currency to use with the people in my live chat. But I think it was like 22 or 23 pounds on Jackson's, which is where I get all my art supplies. All right. I'm getting quite a bit of that gray dust coming down into the blue sky where I don't want it. Just don't try to touch it. Just don't touch it. That's my advice. If you get those specks where you wish they weren't, just don't touch them, and they will go away. You can lift up your piece of paper and kind of hit it on the table to get rid of them, or you can just not touch them for the rest of the piece and then untape whatever you're doing and then tap it, and you'll get rid of them. So this part of the cloud is a bit softer, so I'm just going to kind of go in here and rub out some of that detail, because it's a bit too much. I want it softer up here at the top. And if I blur out too much of the detail, I can always go back and add it. So, and I'm going to pull that highlight color kind of back and directional. I'm going this direction for a reason, because I'm coming away from the light and I'm creating that sunbeam effect. You can kind of see it in the clouds. So these clouds are going to be pushed this way and away from this point here. So. And if your finger's too big, I have a stump, and you can use the stump to kind of go in here and blend out some of those smaller pieces that your finger's just kind of making all muddy and stuff. You don't want that. So although I don't particularly like the blender because it does too much lifting, I did buy a set of sponges that are designed for blending pastels, all a bunch of different shapes and things like that. It was super cheap, and I think it's going to make a big difference when it comes to blending this smaller stuff. Because I just want to push it in a little bit, but not too much. So switch back to my finger to do this part of the cloud here. And this cloud is really, there's no detail going on because it's so dark. There. Cześć, Willem. Okay, so I'm using the blender at the top part of this cloud because it's really dark and crisp at the top. So I'm just going to kind of help create that edge by pushing the colors in a little bit better. Just a kind of a fluffy texture. Like I said, this blender is not ideal. It doesn't seem to want to work with this paper at all, and it kind of just ends up rubbing a lot of the pigment back off the paper. So you'll have to go back in and kind of push it in with your finger, just to make it look right. I'm going to come down here and just blend this stuff out. See, some of the darker pieces, the gray kind of fall, they kind of fell down there, and so they got rubbed in. So I'm just going to take my light blue again, take some of my light blue and lay it down right there, and just blend it and get rid of those dark spots that I accidentally created. There we go. See, it's as easy as that. I love how forgiving this medium is and how quickly it is that you can work with it. I'm going to take that light blue and I'm going to start doing some more highlights on these clouds. And I'm going to be doing the smiley face things, so I'm just going to be giving the clouds a bunch of little smiley faces. At this point, some of the smaller textures will show through. So what you draw is going to start staying in place. It's not going to blend out as well, because we want some of those textures to start showing through. And I'm just going to be doing a bunch of little smiley faces to create that under texture of the fluffy cloud. Don't do anything too uniform though. You want to keep it varied, just kind of go randomly. Like that. Over here, we're going to do the left side, top part of these a little bit. And we're going to do some over here on this cloud. Just the bottom part though, just the bottom part. There we go. See, it's looking even more like a sky. The clouds are much more fluffy. Have fun with the texture there. This is the light blue, it's not white, just so we're clear. All right, so I'm just going to, again, dab that and I'm not even going to move my finger. I'm just going to push it into the paper because I want them to stay. I just want them to stay. So I'm just pushing it into the paper and keeping that detail and that texture because I want the clouds to have some texture to them, some detail. And this is going to soften those edges just enough to blend them in with everything else. Just like that. All right. Now I'm going to lift my paper back up and kind of get rid of some of this excess dust. All right, so Fine Art Ann suggests that a small stiff brush are great for blending detail areas. You can push the colors in. You can push the colors like you are doing with your finger, but okay, so it's a bit controlled. Yeah, one of the things that I got, one of the sponges that I got is kind of like a smaller finger. But thank you for that tip. All right, so now we are going to just let's see. Let's add a little bit more contrast to some of these clouds. So I'm going to take my dark blue. I'm going to take my dark blue that I used up here, and I'm just going to go back and create some more soft parts. So what I'm doing is I'm touching it with an entire side, and I'm kind of placing that edge down and swooping it gently to get this this texture here that I'm getting. And I'm using a really soft touch, so I'm not laying down a lot of it, because this is going to be kind of the details, so I'm not going to want to blend this out a lot. This is just going to help bring some color back into the shadows of the clouds where we put so much gray. And it's also going to increase the contrast a little bit, which is always good. So I don't want to add too much blue. I'm going to go back with some of the dark gray as well. Just in some of the shadow areas, I'm using that whole edge, and I'm doing like a larger smiley face. Larger smiley face. That's what I'm calling it, because we have happy clouds here. All right. Just a few more little touches here and there. All right, now we're going to go back with the dark gray. Dark gray, and we're going to do the same technique with the edge, and then just kind of darken some of those shadowed areas here. And some of this sky up here is quite dark, so I'm just going to add a little bit of, it's a bit too bright up here, so I'm just going to add a bit more of this color here and blend it out just to get it a bit darker, because I like that. Up here as well, just kind of blend it out. Some of these clouds don't even really need to show up all that much. Most of your eye is going to be pulled in towards the center, so. And tap out with your finger and just kind of soften the edges a little bit without too much blending. Get some finer details. You can turn it and use more of the corner with the smaller details over here. There we go. There, I think that's good for the correct contrast. I'm gonna get off. I'm going to get some of the excess dust off before we go in with the details. Oh, hello, Alex. Thanks for joining the live stream. I wasn't sure if you were going to show up today. All right, so let me just check here. All right, so I'm going to use my white now. I'm going to take the white and I'm going to draw in all of the brightest highlights of the clouds. And basically it's going to be the small little smiley faces. And I'm just going to kind of go in with the white, and I'm going to use just the corner of it there. And I'm just going to kind of scrape in some of those really bright highlights. And we'll probably have to do this one or two more times just to just to make sure that we have it as white as possible because we want it nice and white. And I'm just kind of dabbing it with my finger as I go, just to soften the edges a little bit. One of the things I enjoy so much about pastels is just how quick they are. It takes no time whatsoever. I mean, if I wasn't talking through the entire process, I'd probably have been done with this sky 10 minutes ago. But it's just, oh gosh, I can't get over how fun they are. I can't believe I waited this long. I'm adding a bit more pressure here. Like I said, this is kind of our focal cloud. There's a lot of light happening under this cloud. So don't be afraid to really get in there with this white. Have some kind of holes in the clouds up here, the light coming through. And down here at the bottom, add plenty of white. Kind of just get that focal point where the sky is lightest there. We're going to blend out this cloud over here. Go. Sorry, let me catch up with some of the questions I might have missed. Okay, so how many? This is my 4th time using pastels. This picture right here is number 4. That's it, number 4. You have to clean your finger off really well if you're going to go back into the highlighted areas. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to blend out some of this white. Just make it nice and soft in the sky, almost like water. And go through to touch some of my highlights. And with this cloud here, I want to drag that white back through the cloud and create that lighting effect. I'm just slightly dragging it in the direction that my light is hitting. Just a tiny amount. Thank you, Anne. Appreciate that. I am having so much fun with pastels that I don't even know what to say. All right, so one of the other things that I want to do, I need to get my finger nice and clean. I'm afraid to touch. Okay, there we go. My finger is nice and clean. I'm gonna tap off my paper real quick. So just give me a second. All right. Hello, Lee and Heidi. Hildy. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So I'm going to take some of my white again, and I'm going to I think I'm going to use a pencil. Yeah, a lot of dust. So I have my pencil here. I never tried to sharpen it. Let me check, see if I can sharpen this. Looks like charm. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my white Pitt pencil. The other set of pastels that I got was just this 12 pack of the Pitt pencils. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some of these skylights where the white is kind of doing this thing. And I'm just going to use a light touch and just kind of create some light beams. Now, these probably aren't going to show up on the live stream really well, but if you go over to my Facebook or Instagram, you'll get a much better view after this live stream, because I'll definitely post it. And just a really, really light touch. And I'm not doing it in any uniform fashion. If you do that, it's going to look weird. So just very subtle light touches. Maybe a few stronger beams of light. There we go. That looks perfect. Pros and cons. Okay, so good question. Pros and cons of the Pitt pencils. You know, I haven't really used them much, to be completely honest with you. And so I don't have a whole lot of positive or negative things to say about them, but they do give me a really nice control, which I do like. So to be honest, right now I really don't have any kind of positives or negatives to say about them. So do I put fixative later? I did on one piece, and it was the first piece. I put fixative on it, and I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to do that. I have to figure out, more detailed stuff of like preserving it and protecting it and storing it. So when I figure those things out, I will certainly know. And if I find a fixative that I can stand behind and say, yes, this fixative works, it doesn't ruin the work, it doesn't make it look darker and stuff, I will let you guys know as soon as I can. All right, so now I'm gonna use this white to go through and brighten up do kind of the final brightening of all the clouds. Now this is going to scrape off some of your pigment that you have, but that's okay. We're going to knock all that stuff off anyway. I'm going to go in and add some highlights here. And for this cloud, we're going to also highlight the top of it. So I'm going to go in here kind of gently, just making sure that my hand is off the page. I'm just using a jagged stroke. I'm not doing anything perfect, just kind of like scraping. I'm adding quite a bit of pressure but I'm not doing any formal shapes or anything like that. Just kind of going off that edge and creating that nice, that glow effect. So the fixative that I used was Prefix. I forget the official brand name, but it's Prefix. It's like a Rowley something. It starts with an R, but the title of it is Prefix. So you should be able to find it. The brand starts with an R, and it's like Rowley. It ends with a Y. I don't have it. It's sitting over there somewhere. But it's a workative fixative as well. Oh, I just saw the question. Yes, it's a workable fixative. I just bought it at a local art store here in Poland. And I just kind of, they had like 4 different brands, and I was like, yeah, give me that one, because I was like, I don't even know. So now I'm adding some of this really bright white highlight to the rest of the clouds, and it's really making those clouds look lit up really, like, a lot. Actually, I'm kind of loving the way this looks right now. So just adding a bit of subtle highlights to some of these, some of these little clouds up here. All right, let's see here. So I'm going to do this big cloud here, get a nice bright white spot. And I'm just kind of doing jaggedly, kind of scrubbing the pencil into the paper pretty hard. I want to make sure that the whitest parts stick really, really well. And I'm not going to do the entire thing. I want some variance to it. I'm going to add some of these to the other parts as well. Just kind of get it nice and varied, because the more variation you have, the more natural it's going to look. I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, whether it's drawing a portrait or doing a landscape. It's getting those things to look natural. And the thing is, our brains naturally want to recognize patterns, and so we end up incorporating kind of false patterns into our work, which makes things not look all that great. There we go. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to create kind of like a nice stark silhouette. So maybe it'll be like trees and whatnot, and we're just going to finish with that. So I'm going to take my black stick, and I'm just going to kind of come across the sky a little bit, and I'm just going to do short jagged lines and kind of create like a kind of a tree line. We'll just call it a tree line. Nothing fancy. Yeah. And just pull that color down. and blend it out and make sure it's nice and soft. You want to stay away from that edge. We created a nice sharp edge, so don't even look at it. Just ignore it completely. Don't touch it. Don't do nothing. And we'll go in, let's go in with like a dark brown color, just to get, we don't want it pure black. We'll just add some brown, and I'll add some dark green in there too. Let's add a nice dark green. Just to have some color variation in there. All right, and after I blend this, it's going to be it for the live stream. So I want to thank everybody that showed up. This was, goodness, anybody could have, sorry about that. Anybody could have done this, followed along. I did no fantastic techniques. It was super easy. Like I said, this medium is the easiest medium I've ever worked with in my entire life. And like I mentioned before, this is my 4th pastel work. I have all of my pastel stuff. This is number 4. And I've only been working with pastels since this past Monday. So it's that easy. Anyways, I want to thank everybody that showed up to the live stream today. It was totally unexpected. I know I didn't plan this. I set it up about an hour before I actually went live. So thanks again for joining. And for the next tutorial, I promise I will give you at least 2 days notice for the next live stream pastel tutorial. And with that said, I will see you all next time. Take care. Peace.